thinking, sitting up here looking at the sign, how beautiful it is, and how it really, the job that Joyce did, expressing the beauty of the spiritual family. So take a moment today, everybody, and come by and look at it, and know that you're a part of this beauty, and really take that into your heart. Because if we weren't that, she couldn't have envisioned that for us, and it's really gorgeous. Thank you, Joyce. I got snowed out last month, so you didn't get to hear me last month. So when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about this month, I thought I'd kind of hook them together. So we're going to do a little bit of forgiveness first, and then we'll get into the transformation stuff. I grew up in a family where it was very competitive, and my parents really trained our minds. Have you ever read, I can't even think of the name of the book, but there was a book about a family and everything that they did. Their parents were like motion engineers to how to be conservative about everything, and they did everything. So we had we had maps on the walls, we had to read the newspaper, see Huntley Brinkley, we had questions we had to do, we had all of this stuff. And it gives you this mind that you start wondering why. Can we get that out, Jeff, you think?
I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm not sure where it's from.
Well, maybe that one's up. Thank you. So I think about these things. Where did it come from? Why? I guess we're just going to have to live with that. And I thought about forgiveness. You know, what is it? Where did it come from? Why did we develop it? What was its purpose? And so I went back from forgiveness, because for me, forgiveness comes from judgment, and if we didn't judge, we wouldn't have to forgive. So I kept going back, and I got back to looking at us, you know, back at Neanderthal times, and that we had the little bitty brains, and we're going around just like making grunts and things like that. And I think we had fear then, because it was, you know, this fight for the fittest. Could we survive? So we had to have fear to know what was safe, how to protect ourselves, what we could eat, what we couldn't, those kind of things. So I know that we've had fear all along, but it came to me that as we changed and our mind got bigger and we developed this ability to talk, that we got past the grunts. So we probably started like a baby did, with maybe one word that we all used to describe there. So if our fear said that the monster was coming and the safe spot was in the cave, maybe we came up with a word for cave, cop, or something, and everybody knew that that meant that, so they'd all go running to there. So then our brain developed a little bit more, and we started having more language, and I thought of this one for the guys. The first, like, 2 grunts that were put together was probably something like lid down from the wife. You know, a real necessity thing. But we started stringing things together. So, I love that one. But we're developing this ability of language. So I guess eventually maybe we got a verb in there, so maybe we had, you know, go there, do this or something. But we were doing it by putting these sounds that we were developing together as we went through it. And this, of course, is the history according to Sandy. You won't find this anywhere else. But eventually, we got these things called adverbs and adjectives, these modifying things. And before, I think with the fear, I don't think it was a judgment so much as a discernment. That monster is going to eat me up if I go over there. It's too big and I can't do anything but run. So it wasn't a judgment, it was a discernment. It was a fact that that was hazardous to my health, and if I wanted to live, I better not do that. But I think when we got adverbs in and adjectives and we started modifying, then we started to develop this thing called judgment. You're too tall, you're too short, the things, you're not attractive enough, whatever attractive was for that tribe. How all these things went, you know, did your parents want you to get with that one or with this one? All of these little things, and you think about it. Too ugly, or they're too tall. See, all of it are modifiers, nothing about the person. It's all about what the person's saying is judging. So we kept getting this judgment, and then it got out of control. It was no longer just a fear or a discernment to guide us in our life. It now had to do with whether or not I liked you and whether or not I liked what you were wearing, and did I like what you were doing, did I judge you good enough, did I think you were as important as me? And with language, we started developing more in the power structures. And we had power structures then, but we got more and more and more. Look at us now. If we are hierarchical, nothing is. So we have this language now that we use, and we've taken language and we use it to harm. We use it to cause pain. We use it to get even. If you said that, I can go over here and talk about you and say worse, and they're going to think worse about you than they're thinking about me, because I'm really wonderful and you're a bad person. And these things go on in our minds. We don't even know we're doing it half the time that we're judging. It's so normal, or the words that we're brought up with are what we're trained. You see the things on TV of different countries and the hate that's taught. Well, we teach hate here too. We've got that problem the same as everybody else has. So if we hadn't got to this point, I mean, what are we going to do now? We're all sitting around judging and hating and disliking and categorizing and better and less. And I think forgiveness was what developed out of that to deal with it. And an attempt to put something that was out of balance back into balance. So that I could look at what I'd done and say, okay, that wasn't too good. How can I try to make it better? Because I'd like to, it's broken, but I'd like to undo what I broke and at least patch it up enough to be able to get on. So we started forgiving. And we were always supposed to do it, and did we mean it? Sometimes, sometimes not. And then we had to learn to forgive ourselves, because we used those hateful, nasty, judging thoughts against ourselves worse than we did against anybody else. So when I was looking at renewal for April and transformation, bringing that concept forward to me means that the whole thing of the crucifixion was, for me, was a consciousness. It was Christ consciousness. It wasn't a person dying and being reborn. It was an evolutionary process of the consciousness. And consciousness is energy. Energy is consciousness. Consciousness, for me, is a gestalt of everything I am. So whether I have a lack consciousness, or loving consciousness, or prosperity consciousness, that is a cluster of all of my ideas, my beliefs, my actions, everything that makes Sandy then becomes the consciousness of Sandy, whatever that is. So to get to a Christ consciousness, which to me is a really Christic consciousness, where we're living in integrity, we're living in love, we're living without judgment, we're living with reverent respect, we're living with engaged attachment, where we're not judging. All of these attributes of a way that I would like to be, for me, transformation comes down to a personal journey and a personal healing of my consciousness. And that means I have to heal my language. The first things that came out of Source were light and sound. Language goes that far back. Sound goes that far back. It's a way of communicating, expressing. And if it's trying to say I have a Christ consciousness, but then the other side of me is doing something else, they're not matching. So I can't just talk it, I have to walk it. I have to embody it. I have to live it. And to me, this is where transformation comes in. It's a personal experience. I have to add my drop of healing to the big healing wounded pool of the whole world to make a difference. And I can only do that internally. I can't find it out here. If I look out here, I'm disempowered. I have no power whatever. It's all out here waiting for somebody to tell me I'm okay, waiting for me to get a good grade, waiting for me to get elected, waiting for me to get accolades or something. It comes back to internal. No matter how tall I am, how short I am, how large I am, how old I am, none of that matters. What matters is, what is my consciousness? What am I walking around carrying that I'm adding? We're a recipe. This is a recipe. This is our cake. Because we all have been healing. We've all have been working. And because we're doing that and each putting our little part into the spiritual family, we've been able to create this beauty.